a pretty good result. Anytime you can triple your buy-ins for the day, you did pretty well, I'd say. So let me just make sure everything's working properly. Hang on one second. A little bit of camera freeze here. What's going on? There we go. There we go. All right. Let's get started. Ace Queen offsuit. Folds to me. I go ahead and open, and there is no small blind, so I like to make sure the hands are a little stronger here, especially at this stage in the tournament. We just entered this one, um, but we did enter late, so it's whatever. Get a call. Go ahead and flop the queen. Pretty good. Flop comes off. We decide to bet a little bit higher than standard. I think two big blinds, 1.75 would have been fine for 1/3 pot. We see a check raise. Go ahead and call. Turn comes off an ace, and this was an interesting hand because I remember in the moment thinking what hands would call pre-flop and then check raise me on this flop. And this is one of those ones where you can literally ask yourself that question and come up with very reasonable answers. Because I don't think the 10 jack check raises. It might, because some people are super afraid of flush draws. But what flush draws can I have that raise pre-flop? Unless it's random, I can't have the ace king or ace queen of hearts and have, a flush draw. So I can have, I guess, the ace jack of hearts. But if you're holding the jack of hearts in your hand, it takes that away. Ace 10 of hearts, I guess. But those hands aren't very likely. So I don't think 10 jack actually needs to check raise here. And if they did, they wouldn't go so big. This was check raise 3x on the flop. So I believe in game I said it out loud before the money went in that I think the guy has top two or has two pair, and king queen was my guess, but the more likely two pair is king nine because we're holding a queen, obviously. So when the ace comes on the turn, I pretty much felt like I had the best of it, and I said, I should this should be two pair over two pair, and I called, and sure enough, our friend did have king nine, and that's why it was good to let the action play out as it did, because as you can see, he's check raising right here, and he would have been fine getting in all the money, but I wasn't convinced. I mean, obviously I had second pair. Maybe it goes differently if I have ace king, but I really don't think so. I think taking the card off is the move here. And then when he overbet jams, it's like, okay, you never have 10 jack. You always have two pair. And I was a little upset that I got it wrong because I said king queen specifically, but obviously the much more likely hand is king nine because he is in the blind. It's a reasonable defense, and I have a queen. So same result, but just a little nuance thing to remember. I like to recognize when that happens, so I can more accurately make that determination later. All right. Oh, god dang it. I keep doing the thing. Hang on, hang on, hang on. I keep clicking the wrong thing. There we go. Pocket sevens. Make it three big blinds under the gun. We're fairly deep at this point. It's early in this tournament. Get called and flop quads. It's a pretty good thing to have happen. If you can do it, I recommend it. I decided to lead at it because, and I kind of screwed this up because I think I should be leading a little bit bigger. This is just way too small. I'm kind of just doing this as a continuation bet into multiple players to look weak, like I'm just trying to flick a bet in and steal. It did work. We did get one guy. The ace is obviously great because now the other opponent can have an ace, which obviously we just let him bet after we check. He bets half pot. I think that's reasonable. I decided to go ahead and just call it. The river comes off an 8, and I decide to check again, and our opponent bets 17 big blinds, which is half pot again, and really felt like he would think this was bullshit a lot of the time, but more so in game I felt like he had a flush, which I believe I mentioned, and he snap called, and I check jammed pretty quick, and we got a 150 big blind pot with quads, which is not easy to do because somebody has to have something, but this was a lucky situation, and I'm glad the flop bet kind of told the story, because betting on the flop, he's going to draw, right, with that flush draw. Then the ace hits the turn. Now it looks like I have an ace to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's never going to put me on pocket fives or sevens, right? So it looks like I have an ace. So when he bets and I just call, I look like I just have an ace. When the river comes off and I check and he bets and he's still betting for value, this is a half pot bet. Now, if he had bet a third or two-thirds and I raise, he can very comfortably get away from it. But this now puts a pot-sized bet, about a 1-to-1 stack-to-pot ratio. There's about 51 blinds in the pot. So my jam is very reasonable here, and we walked him right into it. He pretty much took like 2 seconds and then called. So I think he was convinced that we just had an ace, and we're thinking he was bluffing. Like if we had the ace king with the king of spades, it would be a reasonable bluff to make. But we were the pre-flop raiser, so I don't think I would make it because you would kind of know that I couldn't have, unless I had exactly the king 10 of spades. This guy's, he's got too much information. So this is kind of a cooler, but it also, I think the betting pattern that we used allowed this player to believe that we had one pair and we're turning our hand into a bluff, which I would never do on this board, but some people would. Pocket Ninners in the Six Max. Six Max was a rough tournament yesterday. It's a very volatile tournament, and I believe I played pretty well, but honestly, I really never got much going. We ended up cashing it, which is nice because it's a big cash. It was a nice overlay. I got like 2.5 times my buy-in for a min cash, so that's good, but it was a very frustrating tournament. But that being said, I think I did pretty well. So we go ahead and raise out of first with pocket nines, pretty ridiculously easy, and the button 3-bets, which is fine. This player was 3-betting quite a bit. I was thinking about re-raising, but it is a bigger bet tournament, so I think people are more, when you're playing in the bigger bet, more volatile tournaments, right, or the bigger buy-in, more volatile tournaments, players have a thing where they don't want to get it wrong. Like, they don't want to bust out of the tournament, but they really don't want to get it wrong, especially in the Six Max, because the ranges are so wide. So players will have a philosophy of, well, I can't be that bad if I jam ace queen here. You know what I'm saying? Like, when totally that's not the right play. If we were to 4-bet, I'm saying. Or they call it off with ace queen. And it's just a lot of gamble, a lot of volatility. And I think if you're going to look at a tournament that way, where you just are trying to get the money in pre-flop because you're too not nuanced enough to play post-flop, then I don't think you should be entering the tournament, because most of the play is post-flop. At least it should be. Flop comes off ace-10 queen. Not exactly the greatest flop for us. We decide to go ahead and check. The 3-better checks, which is interesting. Should be a strong range, but then again, we can have all the aces. He can have aces, but when he checks back flop, he just has to have an ace, right? We check the flop, he checks the turn, river comes off another 5. There's really not much here. I decided to go ahead and bet for value, and this was a value bet. I figured he can sometimes have like king queen, but even that bets the turn, so it didn't seem like anything to me, and I felt like there was a chance that I was beat here, but he didn't like his hand. Like, he could have king 10, he could have 10 jack, and have wanted to just see down the river. So I'm kind of bluffing and value betting all at the same time, because after it goes check, 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 it looks like nobody has anything great, and I think I have the minimum hand I like to bet for value here. If I had jacks, I would obviously bet bigger, because there's just so fewer hands that beat me that will call. But in some cases, somebody can have 8s or 7s or whatever. Sometimes people even call you with like a king 9 here, thinking king high is good. But he folded, and I think it was a nice play. What do you get value against, though? 776655. Yeah, 887766. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Mozzie. Believe it or not, I mean, I know it's rare. This was a rare instance. But here's the other benefit. My bet here isn't unreasonable. You know what I'm saying? Because this is mostly a bluff, but believe it or not, you do get, bluff caught by pocket 8s, 7s, and 6s. Because if we had raised it and we have like 9-8 suited, right? That's a very reasonable hand for me to open 6-handed. I don't know how good this player is. I don't know if he understands and knows that. If I think he doesn't know that, then I'm just going to bet the turn and take the pot down. But if he's an intelligent player at six max, I mean, and you know, a lot of people play a hell of a lot more six max than I do. He may realize that and call me with a pair. Pairs are hard to make, man. And when we just went check all the way, you'd be surprised. I've gotten called many times in this near exact scenario where we're both afraid of the ace. It was three bet pre-flop because eights can three bet pre-flop from the button. Absolutely. Sevens, sixes, pretty much any pair. But also hands like king 10 suited. You know, queens, it's hard to get called by, or it's hard to bluff out. But a queen 9 suited can also do it. A queen jack suited can do it. I think queen jack should call just because of the chop, board. But if we have ace deuce, we are just crushing here. You know what I'm saying? If we have the ace deuce suited. So I would check it all the way and bet this way with an ace. So this is 50-50. I think it's a little bit more of a bluff than a value bet. But it's interesting because this bet serves two purposes. Because we don't have to go crazy. We can just bet reasonably for value. And when we're called, that's the scenario where it was value. When we bluff, that's the scenario where it was, when he folds, that's a scenario where it was a bluff. And our action really doesn't determine that. It's kind of his hand that determines it. You know what I'm saying? I agree it's more of a bluff because there's not much that you can beat calling. Right. Just the lower pocket pairs. True. So the real purpose of this is to push out hands like king 10. You know what I'm saying? Hands that beat us by a hair. I never like to let them go check down all the way when I have something. And a lot of players don't make the call with the queen here. You know what I'm saying? Because it would be reasonable for me to check all the way with an ace. But I really feel like he had a hand like 10 jack or something, or, jack king or 10 king or whatever. And maybe even picked up, he could have picked up a flush draw on the turn with something. I just feel like there's a lot of instances. And here's the other thing. There's a lot of players that fold jacks here and don't ever see bet. I mean, we were fairly early in this tournament, But I definitely like the bet. But I couldn't decide in game, and I really can't decide now if this is a true... It's the same bet no matter what I'm trying to accomplish, either value or bluffing. It's the same bet. And if he calls me, even if I lose, it was a value play. Like, it kind of is determined by his action. If he folds, then it's a bluff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get to decide the actual action of this hand because my range is so wide to the deck. Like, if we had 4-4, 6-6, or 7-7, right, that's the thing. Then it's more of a bluff. But because this is like the minimum hand for value, it works both ways. We prefer to turn lower pocket pairs into bluffs. Yeah, but here's the thing. This bet does both. I think nines, you're right. With nines, you can check a lot and get a good showdown. But because of that king 10, jack 10 factor, it has bluff value to it too. So I think it's probably like 65-35 bluff versus value. But it really doesn't matter because in both instances, I'm going to bet the exact same way. So it's a complicated hand. And it's a very well thought out hand, and it's a hand that I used to fuck up a lot. Like, I've only recently started seeing these situations, maybe in the last 3 months or so. And when you talk about things in poker, man, we talk in years. I mean, so it's rare, and I'm really glad I captured this one on stream. I actually have a notebook that I would work things out on paper if I couldn't keep all the parts separate in my head, like before I put all the puzzle pieces. And a situation just like this where I had pocket jacks and the board ran out the same way and it was a check board. I broke that hand down for about, over the course of 3 months, but over a week I was scribbling in that notebook trying to finesse the ranges. And it played out exactly like this. And I came up with the fact that there was very few hands that can call a bet on the river that we don't beat. The hands that can call us on the river, we beat. You know what I'm saying? It's really interesting because the king 10 really can't call here, but that beats us. But pocket eights, even though it's a weaker hand, can actually call because we're not going to have enough of this board. It's weird because when you have king 10, you have blockers to all these other hands. So there's not a lot of draws for me to have that have missed. it's a very interesting scenario in poker, and it's not one that I think in game you kind of realize, but when you go back and analyze it, it kind of comes to light, and you go, oh shit, that was one of those little nuanced spots uh, where I was actually doing the correct thing without knowing it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, my betting kind of protected me versus making a mistake. 9-9 might be better than a bluff catcher than King 10. Right. Right. So if our hands are switched and I have King 10, I'm not betting it. But if he bets it, I'm calling. You know what I'm saying? But because of his positional, in this case, disadvantage, because I get to act first, if I bet into the King 10, he can't call. If I check into the King 10, he can bet. So it's very interesting, I think, this hand. And this kind of stuff's really fascinating to me because these are the small nuances. There's just not a lot of hands here that can call that we don't beat. All the hands that can call us, pretty much, we beat. You know what I'm saying? Except for the queen. The queen's the only thing. If somebody had like queen, but it would have to be king queen specifically, or even queen jack that checks down. I think king queen bets the turn. I'm talking about when we check flop, check turn, and then we go to the river after he 3-bet me pre-flop. There's just not a lot of hands in the range that would do that. So fascinating, deep stuff there. I like it. Let's move on before I get too philosophical. Pocket tens. Do I remember this hand? It was a long day yesterday. So we see a min open. Oh, I remember this one. This is the bigger buy-in that I entered kind of late, so I've kind of built my stack up a bit. I ended up cashing this one too, which was nice. But this player was opening a lot of hands, but I didn't feel like he was super strong. But he was opening a lot of hands, and I felt like it was better in position to just call with the tens. I could definitely 3-bet, but there are jam stacks behind with the 20 big blinds and stuff like that. And if this guy jams and it had come back and this guy called, I was going to rejam over the top, and I think that's the best play in this exact scenario. And there's the jam ball, and I go ahead and call it. And it's interesting to me. I think I had marked this hand because of the fact that this player was opening so much. This might have just been for my own study. And then folding to, like, I don't know what hands raise out of under the gun +1, gets called behind, and then folds to the jam here. Like, if I had jammed and then this guy called, or if I had 3-bet and this guy jammed, I get it. But what are you opening here? Like, don't you just rejam ace queen? Makes me fold. You know what I mean? But, yeah, I'm kind of interested what happened here. Ace jack, yeah. So I definitely think this player folded the most likely hand to win pre-flop, ace queen, ace king. Versus this range, I'm saying. But it was interesting to me, and I just wanted to go back and revisit that. There's not really much to tell here, but the min open fold out of under the gun +1. A player could be just chip drunk, meaning he just has too many chips to know what to do. That's what I call it. When somebody gets a lot of chips very quickly, they get kind of disoriented, because they haven't studied having that many blinds at a certain blind level. So we go ahead and raise under the gun +1. We are shorthanded now. This isn't the 6-max, but this is a different tournament. But we're missing a player. See a call out of second position. Comes off with a bunch of clubs. And this is something that I did a lot yesterday. Standard c-bet here is about 2.25. I decided to bet bigger because of the simple fact that I believe my hand is actually best, believe it or not, and I want the pot to end now. And specifically, only the ace or queen of clubs can call me. Somebody having a king is not very likely, so this is a true protection bet. My hand is super vulnerable, so I'm betting big, and it works. I really believed my hand was best at that time, and I did not feel like taking a weak showdown. I'd rather just end it. You know what I'm saying? Because we have too many blinds to screw around. That came up a lot yesterday. 10-9 offsuit. Min open, 2 big blinds. We get a call from the button, call from the small blind. Obviously, we're going to call. If it was suited, I could think about 3-betting, but under the gun raised, so I don't think I'd do that. Excuse me a sec. Oh, needed that. Flop comes off. We get a gut shot. Decide to go ahead and check. Checks around. This is an interesting scenario because in a multi-way pot, I love these because we get to play such a nuanced play here on the turn. Uh, a little bit better than one third pot, only because of the number of players. My bet here has to be small. And if you had a decent hand like King Queen or something, or Ace Queen, or even Queen 10, I think you would have bet bigger here. The reason why I'm doing this is because I don't feel like the pot ends here. If you look around, we're the short stack in this pot, and there's a guy here with 60 blinds, 87 blinds, 78 blinds. I don't think this pot goes down with one bet. So it's going to come down to board texture, but I'm setting up the river. So let's say I have a hand like Queen 9. I can bet here. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I don't like to bet big enough to protect my hands. So then I go ahead and just bet small, and I get called, and the river comes off a 3. It's not a lot of hands that can continue here, but Pocket Jacks definitely wants to take a pair off, or a card off, you know what I'm saying? Pocket 10s, and Ace 8 for sure could raise under the gun, suited for sure. Hands like Ace 3, Ace 4, you know what I'm saying? Ace 4 makes a straight, but it's not likely. But Ace 3, Ace 5, all the pocket pairs, 10s, 9s. And, we lose to all that shit, but a queen beats all that shit. So you're saying you'd pot here. Yeah, you don't need to pot because in this scenario, here's the thing. I don't hate it, and it would probably work a lot, but I think more reasonably, we just don't want to overthink it, and we want to bet like we're betting for strong value. Because if I had King Queen here, let's say, right? Or even better, maybe I flopped 2 pair. You know what I'm saying? You just don't want to bet too small. You just don't want to be anywhere near half pot. You know what I'm saying? And there's a thing about numbers that I don't think gets talked about enough. Certain numbers make bigger impact. If you don't think so, go to a supermarket and see how many things are priced $10 versus how many things are priced $9.99. There's a reason for that. You know what I'm saying? They give up that 1 penny, but it seems like so much less when you go, oh, it's $9.99 versus it's 10. You know what I'm saying? Like big numbers, kind of scare people. So we're looking at it in relation to the pot. But if I bet sometimes and it's like I want to bet 2/3 or I want to bet, 1/3 pot, if it works out to an even number of blinds, I'll click over and see what the actual bet number is because I realize not everybody's looking at it in blinds like I am. And sometimes the actual bet is like a round number. I don't like betting round numbers. It just, for my purposes, a lot of times it's not a good idea because it looks too thought out. It looks too contrived. I think when you use the percentage of the pot bet numbers, especially using 1/4, 1/2, and I always change them a little bit, go a half a blind more or less or whatever, I think it looks more organic. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about playing online. You know what I'm saying? Because if I bet 12 blinds here, it looks too planned out. It looks like I'm gilding the lily here. So I go by like I went 2/3 or 3/4 pot and then I backed it off a little bit and we ended up with 12.2. And Pocket Jacks can't even call here. It just looks like a queen. Why wouldn't you bet a queen here? I could also have all the 2 pair combos. I'm in the blind, for God's sakes. This is mine all day long. If we pot it, it just looks garbage. I think if I wanted to get called here, and I was, and I actually had like 2 pair or something, honestly, I think I'm over betting. I'm probably betting like 20 blinds into this pot. I might even go bigger. I might go like 25. If this player had a few more and I had a few more, I'd probably go even much bigger in order to get called. Like if I had Ace 4 here, it's so fucking strong. I think I might have to bet micro. Like I would bet like 3 big blinds, and I would go 3. I wouldn't go 3.1 or whatever. I would go 3. I would actually look for a round number, like in chips and in blinds. So I would just bet 3 big blinds flat and then try to get raised, which will happen a lot. You know what I'm saying? But that's only with the super nuts. In a hand like 2 pair, I'm going to over bet it. Because when we have two pair, it's less likely that we're up against something that beats us. So, yeah. And this should work every time. But the thing is, betting big on the turn doesn't get it done. If you bet big on this turn, it doesn't get it done because you have to bet too big on the river, and the greed factor comes over. So we're just like on the turn, all right, we're setting it up. River, we're taking it down. So you have to plan ahead for some two street bluffs, which I like doing. 9-7 offsuit. I love getting a lot of blind hands. I make it 3.5, and this is a thing. I've been working on my small blind raises and ranges for about 6 months now, like really intensely. And I think I've come a long way and done very well. Okay, so we raise the 9-7, get called, and this is another situation where, so we make second pair. It should be good a lot. Our raising range, while correct, like I'm going to bring up the tools I'm going to show you here. It's interesting. There's so many small blind hands that you raise here that players don't realize you're supposed to raise. So we're at about 25 big blinds. I'm going to bring it up in 1 second. The site's kind of... oh, it's my setting. That's what the problem is. Let's see it here. Come on. Bring up the tools. All right. So on pokercoaching.com, tournament GTO preflop charts. And it's just a generator. We are at about, what did I say, 25 blinds, is it? Yeah. So we're at 25 blinds. Our position is the small blind. Our action is raising first in. 9-7 offsuit. Where are you? 9-7 off is a raise 31% of the time and a call 2/3 of the time. I like the aggressive action. And versus this player specifically, and especially in the 6-max, I like the aggressive action. So the raise, I think, is proper. The flop comes down, and I decide to just bet half pot. This bet I'm only going to make if I think I'm good. Like, if I pretty much feel like I'm good, I'm going to go ahead and bet this here. And you got to see that versus the deck, I have 71% equity. That's because of the gut shot, second pair, and, trip options, or trip backdoors that come out. He does call me. King on the turn. I decide to go ahead and continue betting because he really shouldn't have a king here a lot. Just because he would 3-bet me pre-flop with good kings. And what kings call me pre-flop that don't 3-bet? You know what I'm saying? I guess king 10 offsuit, but if we're going to be that afraid of the nuts, we kind of should just go fuck ourselves. Sometimes he's got 2-pair, but I think it's rare, and I think we're going to find out. And if he raises, I can actually fold here. But he does just call. The river comes off, a blank old deuce, and we ram a jam. And this is one where I feel like there's a very good chance we were beat by a hair. Like, he has, like, queen 9. You know what I'm saying? Where his kicker outplays us. He could have a 10, for sure. He could have a real shit 10, like 10-7, I guess, and have us just beat. But I feel like that would raise the flop. So a lot of times he's going to have Jack 8 here, and we're just going to, he was on the draw, and that's fine, which we should have gotten it in on the turn, but what can you do? But I really felt like I was good the whole way here, and this 3-barrel does get called. And how you like that? 7-6. Interesting. And I feel like this is another one where the hands that beat us can't call, and the hands that we beat can call us. And I don't know what he was thinking here. I think he just thought I looked like I was so full of shit. But because I had the proper pre-flop raising range, I picked up a monster pot here. I doubled up with 9-7 second pair because my equity is so strong here. You know what I mean? And because we're actually counterfeiting his second pair. If a 7 comes off, we get it all. If an 8 comes off, we chop. You know what I'm saying? If the 9 comes off, we get it all. But we were good right here. I mean, and versus his actual hand, he's 16%. Like, and I know this stuff because I'm, when I flop this flop. So I really wasn't afraid of anything here. Like, I just kept betting and betting, and it's like if he doesn't raise me, I'm good the whole way. I think it's merit to jamming the river because we don't want to let a hand like 10-8 call. But I think, honestly, 10-8 would have just raised the flop. So I think this is really the only hand that happens here. And At the moment of the river bet, it's 11 big blinds to win 30. Sometimes he's going to win, you know? He only needs to win about 20% of the time. He's gonna with 6-7, I would say, but not when I bet this way. So interesting hand and a great double up. That was that 6-max, man. So frustrating, but little spots like that kind of kept me in it. So now we're in the 6-max again, but we're shorthanded. I go ahead and open the king-queen. Obviously, we get called. We see a check. We decide to go ahead and check back. And this is very similar to when you have ace-king here. There's really no reason to bet a lot of the times because you have the best hands. So the turn comes off a diamond. He decides to go ahead and check, and I check back again because, again, I think I'm best, and I really don't need to risk anything. Diamond on the river, he checks, and I do bet for value here. And for me, this is a true value bet because this is, see how it says 3.01? The pot is 6.02. This is exactly half pot. This is the bet I never want to make unless I want to get called. This is what I call a bad bluff bet. When players are online and they're bluffing poorly, they'll use this sizing, which doesn't do anything. It's not polarized. It's right in the middle. If you bet, 5 blinds, then yeah, that's a polarizing bet. It's bigger. If you bet 2 blinds, that's a smaller bet. You know what I'm saying? It's polarized. It means something. This half pot bet doesn't mean anything. What it usually means is you're playing against somebody who doesn't know how to bluff. So I like that bet there. And we did get called by a jack on a 4 flush board. He never bet. And then call. And here's the thing. He checks the flop because he knows how far ahead he is. He checks the turn because he wants us to bet so he can raise. When the diamond hits the river, he checks because, well, there's a chance I could be beat. And he still paid us. You know what I'm saying? Not a terrible bluff catcher in his defense. Yeah, but the hand was played poorly. It's not a terrible bluff catcher. You're right. It's probably the minimum you want on a 4 flush board as a bluff catcher. Something like, a jack with a decent kicker. Yeah. But the way that the hand was played, right, he needs to play it differently, exactly. So, let's go back to it, right? We're on the flop. Ooh, I got a jack, man. Ooh, I'm so far ahead here. I know it, too. And let's give him credit. You know what I'm saying? He's 80% to win here, Cool. So he says, you know what? I'm going to check and raise this guy because this dude likes to c-bet, and I do like to c-bet. And in a 6-max, it would be easy to assume everybody likes to c-bet because it's a 6-max. So he checks, and for some reason, we check it back. Now, what's the thought process? Well, he doesn't have much, but if it's me, I'm going to say I should start betting now because I got to get something in this pot because you can see versus the deck, still 73%. You know what I'm saying? So I just really feel like you've got to start betting. And I'm still 50-50, you know what I'm saying, with the queen of diamonds. So when he doesn't bet here, it's just suicide. So when you don't bet here and then you check and the diamond comes out, you should pretty much be done with this hand because you didn't bet because you were afraid of the diamonds. That's why you didn't bet. Now another diamond comes out. Got to bet for protection, exactly. And here's the thing. On the turn, if he bets here and he bets 4 blinds, am I calling with the queen of diamonds? I don't think so. I could, but it's not a profitable call. He'd have to bet 2 big blinds for me to call. 2 or 3. Then I would draw at it because I have 2 overs as well. But I could just be dead here without any other draw. Exactly. Because I would just have to pitch the hand. And if I have ace king here, you know what I'm saying? It's yeah, if it was a 10 of diamonds, it's a different story. But if I have ace king here that raised, or a good ace here, ace queen or something that doesn't have a diamond, I'm not going to call. So you might as well just bet right now. This is a mixture of greed and fear. You know what I'm saying? Greedy for the checking and then fearful to bet. And it's just the worst way to play poker. And the payoff is ridiculous because this bet means nothing and you don't realize that. You know what I'm saying? It's I honestly think with seeing what actually called me, I actually think I could have bet bigger. Maybe only a little bit bigger. Maybe only 3.5 or 4. But yeah, it's just super bad call. Like on the river, we're 88% to win, and you let us get there. It's just a shame. I mean, it's good for me, but it's such a shame that he played it that way because he wasted a beautiful hand, and that pisses me off. You know what I'm saying? When you really squander it because you don't get enough hands to be comfortable, and that's one you should have been comfortable on. So let's see here. We see a limp on the button. This was weird, but the player has 130 blinds, so he can do whatever the fuck he wants, I guess. We see a raise out of the small blind to 3.5, and I decide to call it because I had kind of a feeling about this dude, and he folds, which is interesting in itself. Uh, we go ahead and see a check here. I decide to check back. Turn, deuce. I got nothing going on here. Check, check. River, 5. I just check it with the ace high, man. I'm just hoping to get a good showdown. Player did have one of those hands that I might have been able to bluff if I bet turn and river, but there's really no point. And I just kind of wanted to mark this one for my own review, and it was of this player, and I already noted it in my notes on ACR on him. I went back, found him. Open to 2.5, get called on the button. Flop comes off 387. I decided to bet bigger here. This again is the non-standard bet. This is a bigger bet. I'm pretty confident my hand is good, and I would like this pot to end, and it does. I was doing this quite a bit yesterday. I've integrated this larger bet sizing on flops to kill pots way more, and it's literally for value and protection. And I think finding the perfect bet here was the thing because we're at about 60% pot, which I think in this exact instance is good. I think if we actually, this is a numbers thing, I think if we hit 5 or 5.25, I think it looks too sketchy. So we wanted our hand to look as strong as possible. It's like if you wanted to look strong and you had 25 blinds and somebody raised, if you jammed all in, you look weak. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you should do with aces and kings. If you want to look strong, like on the button, you should just 3-bet. If they open to like 2.5 big blinds, you 3-bet to 6 big blinds on a 25 big blind stack. You look super strong. You know what I'm saying? So it's a great method to steal. This is one where if we bet too big, we end up looking weaker. And on the flop, you don't want to look weak. So I think finding the perfect bet here was the nuance for me that I needed. And yeah, this happened a lot yesterday, and it worked. So let's see here. King 7 folds to us. Definitely good enough to raise. See a call. 996. We go check, check, just because, 1, the king is usually good, and 2, I don't really see much point in betting at this point. I definitely could just play a flop bet and steal, but the player only has 7 big blinds, so if he has anything, he's just going to check jam on me, right? The turn comes off a 5. We pick up a gutter ball. I decide to go ahead and check back. River comes off a jack, and I decide to go ahead and bet now. And I feel like if he had anything at this point, he would have bet. This is one of those ones where you kind of have to surrender. And here's the funny part. Without knowing his cards, he's beating me 2/3 of the time. You know, like, versus the deck, I'm not doing well. But with the action as it was, I think this bet works, and it's profitable just to make a small bet. Because it's better to just let his brain take over and level himself and think maybe we have 7-8 or a 9, or we could have definitely hit a jack, you know, having jack 10 or jack 8 or something, or even, you know, king jack or whatever. And it works. And a lot of players don't like to bluff players on short stacks, but I really think you can do it. But I think if we bet earlier in this hand, I think we're very likely to get called because of his defense range. He may even have something like king jack or king queen or any ace. Like if he has ace 8 on this flop and we c-bet standard 2 blinds, he can jam on us all fucking day and I can't call. Like, he's on a fuck it stack where he just goes, fuck it, and he just throws the money in, and that's not what we want when we have king high. So I think it's important to check this one down and go for the bluff on the river. It's like a super delayed c-bet. You know, we didn't delay to the turn, we delayed to the river, which I like this play. It's a small one, but it makes me happy, you know, because it's well thought out. We go ahead and raise on the button. This is the 6 max. We're short-handed, even more so, with only 4 players. We get called twice, which is awesome, right? It goes check, check. We decide to go ahead and make the big bet again. This is one where, dude, if you had a hand with 2 Broadways in it, you would have 3-bet me pre-flop. And that's really all I'm worried about. Normally, double Broadway boards are not the ones you want to bluff because it's so likely that the players are defending. But honestly, I think they would have 3-bet me, especially this guy. He's on the big stack. I'm the shorter stack here. We're getting near the bubble, I believe, at this point. It goes check, check, or it goes fold, fold. Check, check, fold, fold. And this is that bigger bet again. You know what I'm saying? This is that I'm betting more to protect my hand. If I had a king here, I would absolutely bet bigger because there's too many draws. You know, I don't want somebody with, 10 jack to call me and gut it on me or something. Or, hang on a sec, guys. Sorry, I had to check on Courtney. She was coughing like a conniption. But she was just laughing while taking a hit. So yeah, this works well. And this is, again, another example of the bigger bet. So pocket kings. We see a min raise out of first. Obviously, we're going to 3-bet. It's weird to me. I don't like reviewing big hands a lot, but let's see what happens here. 10-9. We decided to go ahead and bet 1/3 standard. I think this is reasonable. We're not really afraid of anything. You know what I'm saying? The over pairs that we're up against we're going to be beating except for aces. And I think aces, with our stack, he should have probably just put us all in pre-flop. Jack on the turn, and I said it at the time, worst card for us. Because I felt like the player had an overpair. And I didn't think it was aces. And overpairs to this board are, few and far between. They are jacks and queens. And now I'm losing to jacks, and queens have a major draw against me. But he let out on the turn. He did not want this to go check, check. That tells me he doesn't have a set of jacks. Worst case scenario here is a pair of queens, which means that he has 8 outs on me. He has 6 outs on me once. So 12%, so I'm 88% to win. So it made it a pretty easy all in. And of course he does call. Queen hits the river, and he had pocket 7s. So for some reason, this guy turned pocket 7s into a bluff when he picked up the gut shot on the turn. Maybe he just thought I was full of crap and I had ace king, but think about it on this turn. I have 22 big blinds. There's 27.5 in the pot, and he leads at me. Am I supposed to believe that he has a straight when he leads? I'm not going to. This looks more bluffy than anything. And again, it's that bad bluff size. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the worst betting you could do. If you were betting this properly, you would be doing it to get all the money in. But players don't do that. Like, this is a move that I've picked up by watching how players bluff poorly. And I believe I said it in video. I'll look it up. This might be a review hand. But I'll look it up. But I believe I said that's that bad bluff size. And that kind of gave it away. If he bets, even if he's leading here, if he just lead jams, I think I got to fold. Like, as much as ridiculous as that is, if he leads the turn after check calling the flop and jams, like, I can actually give him credit for having 2 pair there. Or a set. You know what I'm saying? He can have a set of 10s or 9s or even 3s, I guess, and have raised out of first, called my bet, and then flopped a set and then checked and then gone, oh shit, that jack, man, I don't want this guy to have, a free shot at a straight, so I'm just going to go ahead and get the money in. You know what I'm saying? Because if he checks the turn and I have queens here, I may just check it back. Kings, not so much. But queens, I may just check it back because I have the bailout of the open-ender. You know what I'm saying? If I'm beat. But kings here, I think it's just a fold if he bets properly, and it's a jam if he bets improperly. And he showed us something we weren't expecting. So, I don't know what to tell you. He just kind of went for it, and he doesn't have enough knowledge to know when to go for it. Not insulting this player, I'm just saying that's the point of his development. Everybody, there was times when I made, those same poor plays. But I'm more experienced now. Pocket trays. Just going to call here. We check around. Reasonable. This was an interesting one. I think it's the check around on the flop that screwed me. I probably should have just bet it. This is a mistake I made. And I think it's the only mistake I made, honestly, in that hand was not betting the flop. Because when it checks to me, I should just bet here. Because my hand is too vulnerable to let the turn come off. Because if a 6 comes off, I have nothing, right? Like, honestly, I think I space cadeted on this one. Like, I don't know what I was... I obviously wasn't thinking. I went back and watched the video, and I was just like... It looks like my eyes are glassy. I think I was hungry. But I definitely should have bet this flop, because who can have what? It's a 3-way pot. I'm in position. Why am I not betting? Like, I should have just bet 3 big blinds or 2.5 and just made this go away. And if we get called, then we can just check down. But now on the turn, we're facing this, slightly bigger bet size, and we really can't fold because it's one bet coming out of the blind. And what does he have, a 6 or a 7? Not really. Queen on the river, and he checks. And I thought about bluffing here, but I'm really only bluffing against flush draws. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he has a 6, he's not going to fold. You know what I'm saying? I'd have to make a giant bet, and that's silly. He could have just spiked the queen and been trapping. I don't know, man. It's not likely we're beat here, like hardly at all. I mean, you can see even versus the deck, 66%. He can really only have, like on the turn, we're 43% because of this other player. But once this other player folds, now we're 65%. Like, he kind of either has a 6 or he doesn't, right? And when he checks the river, I don't feel like he has a 6. So what's the point in betting? I'm going to bet into a busted flush draw and not get called. I think I'd rather check this one and show down that I had pocket 3s and you're dumb. Like, I think it's better for the dynamic. Interestingly, pocket 4s. Weird hand. But then again, if I bet the flop and this guy calls, I lose less on the hand, but I don't bet the turn or river. You know what I mean? Now, if the turn comes off and he checks, which he's going to, I'm going to check back thinking he may have a 6. And when the queen hits, he's probably going to check, and I'm going to bet river, and I think that's a high percentage play. But he may call it. He shouldn't, but he might. I could have a flush draw and have rivered the queen. But my river bet would have to be like 12 blinds, so it's probably going to work about 90% of the time or so. But even if I decide to check it down by betting the flop, I'm betting so much smaller that I actually save a blind. When I bet the flop here and then we go check, 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 check all the way down, I save a blind versus his 3.4 big blind bet on the turn. So, interesting. Very weird hand, very rare. I don't think there's anything to learn from this really, except for maybe I should take the betting lead on the flop. Not maybe. I should absolutely have the betting lead on the flop. But at the same time, this is going to come up so rarely that I don't really think you can glean much other than that flop bet. What's going on with my computer? Oh, there we go. So, interesting though. We raise under the gun. We get jammed on, and we see a call behind, and always scary when that happens. But, the player is very strong. But here's the thing. I only have 19 big blinds, and we're at a point in the tournament. I believe we were in the cash. And at this price, I really don't want to fold when I'm 50-50 versus the deck. You know what I'm saying? So I just went all in and got called here. And the run out comes off. And it was a good run out because the player was very strong, but I ended up making the clubs. But in all honesty, this is one where I just don't have enough chips to fold at this point, especially with this dead money here. And this is pretty much dead money. Like, I'm basically getting 3-1 on my cash to make this call when I have 50%. I think it's good. It really doesn't matter what he has. Specific reads aren't the thing. We're trying to be more GTO. So, it worked out good, though. Three bet. Flop comes off, 7 high. We decided to go ahead and just bet big because...
You didn't lock the door. Dad just walked in now.
Oh, well, yeah.
Bye. Give me a kiss. I'm gonna hang out that.
Okay. So, hey, Pops. So, what did I say? Oh, so I go ahead and bet the flop pretty big. We do want to protect our hand with, against draws and stuff like that. And I believe we're best here all the time, but we're just going to get as much value as we can. This isn't betting too big. I think this is just big enough for value. It can look like a shitty bluff to this player because it was a 3-bet pot. But I think protecting here is more important than anything. And we just take it down. And interesting, let me go back here. We did have the 3-betting lead, and the player was under the gun. So when he checks, I think betting is our only avenue. If he has kings, queens, or aces, we're going to find out right now. But hands like ace, king, ace, queen with the ace of clubs, they're not going to fold. Pocket 9s and 10s are going to jam on us. They're going to jam versus raising with aces or kings. Or even just smooth calling with aces or kings. So I like this bet here, and I think it does have to be a bigger bet in order to protect our hand and take the pot down. I think it's just better. Pocket kings. We raise, big blind defends. Flop comes off with an ace on it. Never good for kings, but you know what? He only called pre-flop. We should have all the aces in our range. So I'm not really that worried about it. Turn comes off a 4. He leads for 1 big blind. I see 0 value in raising here because if we have him beat, he's not going to call. Turn comes off, or river comes off a 6. And I decide to go for that bad bluff size again and get called here. And I said I don't think he has much, but I don't think he knows how to fold. This player was so short, and I was so stacked up that this just looks like bullshit. So the bad bluff size of exactly half pot worked perfectly and called us with 4th pair on a flush board, straights out there, and an ace versus an opener on the button. Unless I have like king queen, I don't know what you beat, bro. But I'm not playing king queen this way. I'm c-betting the flop with that. So this worked out nice. We got great value out of our kings versus a just trash hand. Yeah. Hang on a sec. Oh, I am waking up. Min open, we see a defense from the big blind. We flop the flush draw. I decided to go ahead and just check it back because I don't want to get blown off the draw. We are very deep, and I am short on chips. This is a bigger buy-in tournament. Player bets the turn for about half, or for exactly half pot, bad bluff size. Obviously, we're going to call because we're getting better than 4-1. River comes off, and we make the nizzity nuts. He checks, and I decide to go ahead with the half pot bet right back at him, showing him how poor this bluff sizing is. And, of course, he pays it right off with an under pair. Look at what we're getting called by. 4th pair. This half pot. And it's like players know that it's a bad bluff size. They know it. But they're still using it. Like this player used it on us with his double gutter. But he was bluffing. He should have bet bigger. He had an 8 or a 4 or a 6 to take a monster lead in the hand. If he bets the turn, right? If he bets it for fucking full pot, I mean, I have to call because I know what's up, but I don't like it. It sucks for me. And if I only hit the ace and he bets again, like if it's not a club, but it's an ace, and he decides to bet, now the pot would be like 15. He decides to bet like 13 blinds. I can't call with 1 pair. That's the thing. You don't want to make calling with 1 pair easy for the opponent. And he fell for his own bad bluff. Like, it's ridiculous. That half pot bet is just never useful unless you want to get called, really. Ah, damn it. Hang on. I lost my place. There it is. King, queen. See a raise. We decided to go ahead and just call it. I could 3-bet it, but honestly, the hand's so strong being suited that a call is fine. That bet's also kind of big in relation to the player's stack and our position in the tournaments. He checks the flop. I decide to check it back. Turn comes off. And this is that big bet size again. And I felt like if I checked the turn, our hand looks stronger and we set up future bluffs. And I feel like he's going to play so ABC with his stack size that betting here is important, but we don't want to bet too small because he's going to have hands like sevens, sixes, eights, anything really. And we just don't want to give him a chance to hero us. So this is why the bigger bet's important in this instance. And it goes down. This is another one where the big bet did more than the small bet. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of that yesterday. It was really fascinating. 9-7 suited. We decided to go ahead and defend on or just call on the button. Right around 26 big blinds. I like it because if we flop something, we can definitely go with our equity. This was an interesting hand, and I'm very proud of this hand. And I'm just kind of curious what the numbers were. 55%. I decided to go ahead and bet big. This is more than half pot. This is my I want to get it in here kind of thing. This player then raises to about 2.5 times my open, and I agonized over this hand at the time, and I was like, well, if he has a flush draw exactly with 2 overs, I'm pretty sure I have to call here because I'm getting 2-1 on the call. So I need to win 33% of the time. So when this player folds, I'm now going to win 73% of the time. Getting all the money in is probably good here. So I wanted to see what it was when we turn over the cards. 50-50. And I'm getting better than 50-50 on my money. I thought it was close. I think I said 55-45, but before I made the call, and I said if he's got a flush draw on 2 overs, I kind of have to go with it here. We were in the money in this tournament, and it was a bigger buy-in, and it was at that inflection point where the next, like the blinds are 5 and 10,000, and you'll see it here. We have 190K. The next jump, I believe, was to 7 and 14, or it might have even been 8 and 6. So we were going to get cut pretty hard. Or 8 and 16. We were going to get cut pretty hard at the next blind level. And if he had just jammed it, it's a snap call. So he's right to make this small raise because it looks stronger. But do I ever believe you have a 5 here when you do this? No. People just call with a 5. Honestly, if I'm him and I'm trying to win the pot here, I'm going to jam. Even though you know what it is, I have to make a bigger call. I kind of priced myself into it, right? If he had just checked the flop and I bet for 5 and he jams for the whole stack, I have to call off 19. It's kind of harder to do. I would still be correct, but it's kind of a harder call to make. It's because he made this raise that I was able to determine that he was trying to look strong and only had a draw. And we got it in, and I was very happy to do so in a 50-50 scenario where I can more than double up my chips at a point in the tournament where it's needed. And he hit the flush. What are you going to do? But I really like the way I played that one because I figured it out, and I decided it was the right time to gamble. This is the spot where I got to put myself in a position to win the tournament. You know what I'm saying? Double up to 50 big blinds here is pretty awesome. And only top 27 got paid, and we came in, what was it? No, this is the other one. So this is why does it say 249? Oh, that's right. This is the bigger one. This was the 30K guaranteed. So I went out 249th, and I believe 270 got paid. So, and I was only sitting in I think I was in 200th place or something like that. So I was not going great for me. It might have been 150. So this was a moment where I took the chance to give myself a chance to build up a big stack and get in the tournament. I stand by this. It's a gamble, but here's the thing. If you had ace king here pre-flop and raised and a guy 3-bet you would just jam the 26 big blinds. That's worse odds than was going on for me here. So I took the shot to get in the tournament and make a deep run, and this time it didn't work out. But if it had, I'd have done very well. But being also in the cash is a factor. I don't think I even bet it if we're not in the cash on the flop. I decided to go ahead and limp the ace-8. This player had been doing some wacky stuff. We check. We make the ace. Go ahead and check the flop. He bets one big blind. Doesn't really mean much. Turn comes off. It goes check, check. River comes off 7. I decide to check. He bets, and look at the size of the overbet here. Kind of interesting. And we're now on the opposite end of the other hand where the guy had king jack and bluff caught us. But here's the thing. Blind versus blind, there's a hell of a lot more aggression going on with draws. So how do you have the king of diamonds here ever? Unless you absolutely just flopped it, no fucking way. So this is an easy call. Total air ball. Take it down. We limped the jack 9 offsuit in the small blind. I did have a kind of an interesting limping range yesterday. I was kind of trying to use, when I was on a smaller stack, I was trying to use post-flop betting more than pre-flop raises, which I guess is smart. I decided to go ahead and bet. This is standard, one blind. You can do that when you limp pot. We do see a call. We pick up the monster draw. I decide to now go for it because I know my hand has a ton of value. I decide to bet pretty big. The player calls, and here's where it gets scary, man. I set up the pot-sized river bet, the 1-to-1 stack-to-pot ratio, just about a little bit over, and I decide to ram and jam. And I think this works a lot of the time. The ace is bad for us, or the ace is bad for him, but the heart is bad for me because he should have a lot of draws here. But in all honesty, if I had the heart draw, I would play it this way. If I had an ace, I would play it this way. You know what I mean? And if he has a queen here, like a shitty queen, like queen 8, he plays it exactly the same way and then folds the river. And that's what happened. This was a nice one. We raise out of first, short-handed, king, queen. Oh, we get 3-bet and fold. And the reason why this one is in here, is it going to show it? Yeah. Player had ace, king. So this 3-bet was brutal because the player's a big stack, and we were almost to the final table in this one, and these are the 2 big stacks on my right, and I'm just so handcuffed. There was like 11 players left forever in this thing, and there's 5 on our table, so there's at least 5 on the other table because I remember they always had less than us, so they were either at 5 or 4. No, they weren't at 4 because we'd be at the final table, so they were at 5. So we're in the final table bubble, and out of first position, 5-handed, man. There's a great case to be made for just open ripping the king-queen with 17 big blinds. But because of the stacks on the other table and because of the playability that I have with this blind, or with this amount of blinds, I decided to just min open it. And this player makes it 9 big blinds. He's trying to commit me, and he made a great bet because he made it big enough that I can never call like an only jam. Like if he makes it 6 big blinds, there's a lot of pairs I can call with here and see a safe flop and then get it in. But I folded, and he ended up showing the ace-king of diamonds, or ace-king offsuit. So, fun one, and I like that he showed it. He obviously was doing that because he did have respect for my range, and just wanted to say, look, man, I'm not fucking with you. I actually had ace-king. So, this is a good one. I think that's it. Yep. Went on to take 5th place in that tournament. It's uploaded on YouTube. And it was a great run, and it could have gone better. And in the end, I got ace-queen suited and ran it into ace-king. I raised. I had like 20 blinds. The guy re-raised, or he jammed for just a little bit more than me. The first 2 guys, these 2 guys were still in it. They still had just about the same proportion of chips, so they had like between them like 80% of the chips in the tournament, or 75. And I was up against the guy that had me covered by a smidge. And with ace-queen suited, 5-handed, you're getting it in. So I'm very happy with how it played out, and it was just a cooler. So it would have been nice to go further, but if I win that one, I do. But what are you gonna do? It was the first cooler I really had the whole time, so I think I played really well. All right, I got a lot of editing to do today. It might be a play day, but honestly, I don't think so. I was kind of up late. I definitely need some sleep, and I haven't eaten yet, so I don't know how I'm going to feel. But if I come back later and play, I'll let you guys know. It'll probably be around 3 or 4 o'clock. Otherwise, I'm going to edit and make some more stuff for the YouTube. Hopefully, I can get out another Jedi mind trick. The final table's already uploaded on YouTube if you want to see it. It was a good run. But, yeah. And I'll see you guys soon. And I'll pass you on to somebody and have a good day, guys.